To the US now, and President Donald Trump is still coming to terms with his election loss. Given the outstanding legal suits, you'd suggest he actually hasn't accepted it yet. But it may only be another 4 years till a Trump is back in the White House. Not Donald, but perhaps Ivanka. Washington Post's Jacqueline Alemany reports President Trump's daughter is considering a tilt, and she already has some backing.
She definitely is a bridge to conservative women in the eyes of her Republican peers and her father, and is, next to her brother, someone who's able to sort of carry the Trump agenda on going forward in a more palatable and polished way. Ivanka was really key to her father's comeback in some ways. Obviously, he didn't win the election, but he was in much more dire straits for his handling of the pandemic. And, she pulled through during the convention and delivered a speech that I think assuaged and reassured a lot of women many of whom ended up voting for Joe Biden, but some of whom stuck with her father because of that. She was also included in a recent Republican poll, the McLaughlin Associates and Newsmax, in which she came in at 4% behind a number of other players in the party, including her brother. And the poll excluded her father. But, she is someone who has really cultivated relationships, and she's very ambitious and power hungry. And as many people said over and over again, she's exactly like her father. So expect her to follow in his footsteps in trying to milk as much out of those relationships that she was able to glean by taking center stage of the political hailstorm that her father, caused 4 years ago.
And just to expand on that, you mentioned the similarities with her father, but what attributes does Ivanka have that Donald doesn't? Because she's obviously missing some of the characteristics that made her dad so attractive to so many. Is there anything about her that would make her a more powerful force in politics?
Well, I think what makes her more powerful is, like her father, she is sort of a shapeshifter, a bit of a chameleon, a canvas in the regard that she does change her beliefs depending on the political opportunity. We saw her really transform from a New York liberal who people thought was going to be a moderating force on her father to then 4 years later come out as unapologetically pro-life. And a lot of people saw this as her setting the stage for a future and future ambitions in Republican politics. But I think, what benefits her that her father doesn't have is that she's more polished and a more palatable and a prettier version of him.
Well, it may be a more pressing concern for her than a 2024 presidential run. There is reporting that Ivanka Trump, her husband Jared Kushner, and Donald Trump Jr. could face criminal charges. What do we know there?
That's exactly right. And, of course, before really she has political ambitions on her mind, there are a number of people, as we state, who don't want her in New York and who note that she has a lot of legal problems hanging over her head, and any whiff of a legal scandal could be an impediment to a future in politics. And, there are a number of investigations that are ongoing, some of which we've forgotten about. For example, the Presidential Inaugural Committee investigation for misusing funds. D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine alleges that the inaugural committee knowingly and willingly overpaid Trump International, Trump Org, Trump Hotel for use of the property to enrich the family. Ivanka was deposed for that yesterday, and the third-party witness, Stephanie Winston-Wolkoff, who was a main planner for the inauguration, is set to be deposed next week. She's provided, according to court filings, we've seen around 18,000 pages worth of documents, so there's certain to be some news there. That investigation has been ongoing for years now by the D.C. Attorney General. There's no hint that it's a criminal investigation. It's civil at the moment, but it's not wrapped up yet. So that's TBD. And then there are these two investigations in New York into fraud by Trump Organization that have now expanded to Ivanka Trump for some of the consulting fees that she's been paid. The investigation is she's not the focus of the investigation, but it has expanded to her. So her name, she has been as central as she's been to her father's policies and her father's White House. She's also just as entwined as in a lot of these investigations as well.